Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to Meet the Candidate. And just to kind of remind everybody that our goal is simply to get to know each candidate at a more personal level, find out who they really are, and we're going to do all of that in just 15 minutes. So, Terry, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, and as soon as you get finished, we're going to start with our questions. So
Sounds
go
good.
ahead.
My name's Terry Moore, and I am a 21-year resident of Mansfield, Texas. I live here with my wife, Anita, my daughter, Libby. My boys have moved on to other cities. I'm a current member of the Mansfield City Council, concluding my first term, running for mayor of Mansfield, Texas.
All right. So let me ask you, where were you born and raised?
London, England, but I was not raised there. My parents were in the Air Force. They met at their duty station, which was in Middlesex, just outside of London. I was born there. They didn't ask. So I was there for 3 months before they got out of the Air Force and relocated to Fort Worth, Texas. And I grew up in Fort Worth, all but those 3 months. Once I went to college, I moved to Arlington. I lived in Arlington for 17 years, met my wife at college, started our family there. And once we got our kids to school age, our oldest to school age, we decided it was a good place to move from. And after some searching, we decided to move to Mansfield, Texas. So we've been here since 1998. We moved here when Mansfield was 18,000 residents.
All right. So let me ask you, what did you want to be when you were a child, when you grew up?
So I'm a very honest person. Don't ever ask me a question you don't want the answer to. I wanted to be president. My mom was very politically active, and as a child, I worked in a lot of campaigns, going out and putting up yard signs and things of that nature. It was for a political affiliation in those days. But, you know, going to college teaches you a lot, teaches you about money. I was a finance major, and, so president is not a realistic dream for me. It's not something I really have any interest in anymore. Values change, priorities change, and my priority is my family and my life here in Mansfield.
Okay. So what was the very first job you had?
So I was a paper boy for the Fort Worth Press, and I had the largest paper route in Fort Worth, and I got that when I was 10. I lied about my age. You had to be 12, and I had a Stingray bicycle, and I threw that paper route every morning, every afternoon for about 4 years. They fired me because I was underage.
All right. So how would your friends describe you?
I don't know. I don't know.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words? Just give me 3 words.
Too serious always. How's that?
I would say that serious would be 1 word, but.
Okay, well, and I try not to be. You know, I'm pretty passionate about the things that I'm involved in, the things that I do, and tend to focus on them quite a bit.
Okay.
That's my lovely wife. She has just walked into the chamber. She's late, as she is for everything she goes to. She's used to me saying these things. I love you, dear. I told Lori you were going to be late. So serious, passionate, committed. How's that?
That's perfect. Perfect. So let me ask you, do you have a bucket list?
There's things I want to do. I don't know if I'd call them an official bucket list.
Okay.
I need to vacation more. Okay. And I know that doesn't sound like a bucket list, but vacation more. We've traveled extensively. I mean, we've been over a majority of the world in the country, but continued travel is certainly one of those. There's not been a lot of places we haven't been. South America might be one in the not too distant future, but as far as specific things goes, I would call them more goals than bucket lists. So our oldest son and his wife called us last week, and despite the fact that we didn't know if it would ever happen, they're pregnant. And I've wanted to be a grandfather. I didn't think it would ever happen, okay? And it has, or it will. It'll be good. So I want to be a really good grandfather to our first grandchild. I want more grandchildren. My oldest son and my middle son are married, so that's the best opportunities. My youngest daughter has offered, and I told her she's not married, and that's not an offer we want to take her up on. So, you know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about bucket lists, okay? What I do think about is what's important to me, and I just want this town to be the best community for everybody in it can possibly be, okay? And that's really my bucket list and what I want to focus on.
Okay. What is the best book you've ever read or the best movie you've ever seen?
Same book and same movie, To Kill a Mockingbird. Phenomenal.
Okay. All right. Very good. And do you have a hero?
At different points in my life, I have. So here's my answer. Ronald Reagan. My middle son's name Reagan, and it would have been Reagan George, but Anita would not stand for the name George, okay? As I mentioned before, I grew up in a highly Democratic family. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way things were back then. But going to college and wanting to be a banker, that's a shout out for Randall Kennedy. I was a banker for a year after I got out of college. I was a finance major. And when I graduated, interest rates were 21%. It's hard to buy a house when interest rates are 21%. And it really taught me a lot about finances and the importance of good governance and the importance of, you know, managing the economy. And that led me to Ronald Reagan, okay? I think he was a great man. I think he really kind of changed the attitude of our country around how we saw ourselves and how the rest of the world saw ourselves. I thought he was truly an inspirational leader.
Okay. So what is a favorite childhood memory that has had a lasting impact on your life?
So my mom and dad divorced before I was 3. And I found myself in my early years being largely responsible for my sister. And that's not a negative thing. It taught me to grow up early. Okay. It taught me responsibility. And, you know, we looked out for each other. I always wanted to protect her and to do everything I could to make sure that, you know, things were going well for her. And that's had a lasting impact on my life. That's why I might say I'm too serious, okay? My childhood was a little bit different from others. We still had a lot of fun. We climbed trees, we threw rocks, we, you know, played Army Men and stuff like that. But it was just a different upbringing, different situation than maybe some.
Okay. What hobbies do you have?
So I love to work in the yard. And let me explain it. I love to plant things and grow them, and anything that will bloom in Texas in the summer, you just got to respect, okay? And to go out into my backyard and see flowers blooming kind of takes a lot of the pressure of other things that I do off, and it brings me some momentary peace.
Is that how you recharge, is by doing yard work?
Absolutely, because there's no email. I try not to take my cell phone. There's a physical aspect to it, but I get to plan what goes in, where it goes in. I move plants like some people move furniture, okay? And I'll plant it somewhere to see how it grows. I'll plant it to see how it looks. And if I don't like it, the next season, I'll pick it up and I'll move it to a different part of the yard.
What's your favorite plant?
Anything that flowers. So I'm the tree guy on the council, okay? And I know that sounds silly, but growing up, we didn't have air conditioning, okay? We had a swamp cooler in Fort Worth, Texas, which made no damn sense, okay? They work great in El Paso, but they don't where there's humidity. So we spent all day outside, and the thing that made it possible was a big oak tree and a water hose. And an oak tree in Texas in the summer is invaluable. You know, oak trees keep their leaves during the winter. So that's the fundamental of a yard. is having a good tree for some shade, and then anything that will bloom underneath that. Crepe myrtles. We got a lot of hibiscus in our yards. Started playing with some tropical canna. If you drive my house, I live in a cul-de-sac, you'll see all sorts of canna in the front yard. So yeah, and I'm an organic gardener, okay? So I do my best to not ever use any chemicals. You know, there was a time where we used diazinon religiously for our lawns and whatnot. Unfortunately, that got banned. Whether you like that or not, it got banned. And it was because it killed everything it came into contact with. But I've got a yard full of frogs and lizards. 2 years ago, I bought a dwarf Yopon holly, a female variety, because they berry and they look stunning in the winter. And it didn't berry the first year. And someone told me, well, you got to have a male version to pollinate it. Well, I don't know how the male pollinates it. But so what I did was I started planting butterfly bush. And I've got a yard full of butterflies and dragonflies and bees. And that dwarf Yopon holly that didn't berry a year ago is so full of green berries that will ultimately become red. It'll be a great winter with that tree.
Wow.
Far more detail than you wanted.
Yeah, no. I'm a gardener myself, so I love the information.
I've seen your pictures on Facebook of your backyard. I haven't started posting pictures yet because, you know, some people would think that's a little odd. We must keep up appearances.
Well, the secret's out.
Yes, ma'am, it is, pretty much. Like I said, never ask me a question you don't want the answer to.
Okay, so if you could go back in time, what year would it be and why?
So I wouldn't put it to a year, okay? I've always seen myself, and this is really odd, okay, in battles. Whether I love old England knights and stuff like that, or World War II or Civil War or something like that. And I don't know if I can explain it or not. Those tend to be movies that I seek out. And I've always envisioned myself in an older time, and being part of something like, I obviously wasn't born in those times, but that's just something that I've always thought that maybe I was there. I don't know.
Is there something specific that fascinates you about those, the battles, that time period that,
maybe it's just frustration I need to work out. I don't know.
did you ever think that you might go into the military?
Yes, I did. So that goes back to the upbringing.
Right.
I had a congressional nomination in 1977 for the Air Force Academy. And just some things in my family's life didn't work out. And it was important for me to stay here and to be a part of that family. And, you know, like I said, my mother and father met in the military. My mom spent an extended period of time in the military, stationed at Carswell Air Force Base. She was in the reserves, okay? And I always felt that was something I would do, and that was something I was interested in. But, you know, circumstances occur, and those opportunities need to be changed to focus on other things.
Do you have a motto or a creed that you live by?
Less talk and more do. So I say a lot of things, and it's okay, but what you say needs to be backed up by your actions. In my daughter's senior year of college, my wife and I had talked before that, and we basically came up with a motto that we wanted her to adopt, and it was "Suck it up, Buttercup." Okay, you know, just blue collar background, hardworking people, get in, work hard, get it done, and then when it's done, let's go have a cup of coffee or a beer.
Okay. Well, our 15 minutes is up. Goes by so fast.
It does.
And I want to thank you very much for participating. And we will see you at the candidate forums.
Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.